I'm not really a big reality TV fan, but I love to watch shows about survival. Yes, I was totally into The Real Survivor, where the contestants were forced to live on desolate islands. Nearly starving and half naked, they had to duke it out to see who could survive. Not just the terrible living conditions, but also each other. The same rule of survival applies to the Hunger Games series, where people fought tooth and nail to be the primary victor. Then there was 90 Day Fiancé the other way. These guys are not battling brutal terrains and harsh living conditions. Instead, they are battling each other. The contestants are not only forced to deal with language barriers and cultural differences, but the ultimate killer, relationships. So if you're a huge 90 Day Fiancé fan, you're going to want to stay tuned for this one.
Happy Hunger Games! And may the odds be ever in your favor.
Have you ever heard the story of Pandoras Box? It's a Greek myth about how the gods bestowed the beautiful Pandora with a box filled with all the world's evil. And once the box was open, it was released to dispel evil throughout the world. Now, there are many ways to interpret this story. Many think that this story is about hope, or the dangers of curiosity, or how terrible things can sometimes happen to the best people. To me, the story of Pandora is all about falling in love. In many cases, we fall in love with the packaging, only to open the box and find that it's full of horrors. Or worse, we open our hearts only to find that we're the ones who are full of horrors. Yes, my friends, I am a mystic and I try hard to stay away from the fluff. But I have to say this about relationships. When it comes down to attracting that special someone, you don't attract what you like, you attract who you are. What does that mean? Well, you heard of the expression that you are what you eat. If you eat a whole bunch of junk, well, you're going to be lethargic, fat, sick, and miserable. If you eat healthy foods, you're going to have plenty of energy. You'll live longer and you will feel good. While food fuels our bodies, emotions fuel our relationships. Good emotions promote healthy relationships and bad emotions foster toxic relationships. Now, here's where it gets a little tricky. Many of us are not self-aware of the kind of emotions that we're actually using to fuel our relationships. And that's when we run into serious problems. We have arguments, but we fail to realize that when we're having these outbursts, we are vomiting all of our pent-up emotions on our partner. In many cases, we are unaware of these toxic emotions. So when we're triggered with a breakup or we feel that pang of jealousy, we go crazy.
Apartment. I'm sick of
Why did you act like that?
Shut up! Don't me no more. Hey!
The hardest thing about relationships is that they teach us lessons about ourselves. Worse, relationships forces us to deal with issues and trauma that we may have been suppressing for many years. Let's just take a look at Jamie and Chris from 90 Day Fiancé The Other Way, Season 4.
Up in costumes because I could actually be more of myself in a costume than I could in my everyday life.
Chris is a single mom and a country bumpkin. She falls in love with Jamie, a Venezuelan refugee, and vows to give up everything for her. Now, it would seem that this love story would have a happily ever after, but in true 90 Day Fiancé disaster fashion, it doesn't. Chris threatens to slash Jamie with a knife. No, I'm kidding, that didn't happen. Instead, Chris is forced to go back home to the United States to tend to her family and work to support her new wife. Chris grows resentful that Jamie chose an apartment that she couldn't afford. And she resents Jamie for doing nothing to find work in Colombia. However, what both Chris and Jamie fail to understand is that attraction is tricky. In most cases, we're attracted to people based on our subconscious wants and needs. The longer our needs go unmet, the more we're attracted to the person who can fulfill those needs. Chris often joked that she didn't want to be a sugar mama. However, Jamie, being a woman from a broken country with an unstable economy, needed financial security.
Difficult country. I know half. job. The people is in the street, no food, is no opportunity.
Jamie was attracted to Chris because she believed that she could provide the security that she desired. Jamie's attraction to Chris was based on her need for financial security, to put it in layman's terms, while Chris wanted the freedom to just be who she was. But the burden of supporting her own family and a beautiful wife was too much for Chris, causing the relationship to take a turn for the worse. Sadly, false expectations are the kryptonite of virtually all relationships, especially those on 90 Day Fiancé. Let's take a look at Gabe and Isabel. They seem to have suffered a similar fate. Gabe, according to his sister Monica, tends to be a serial dater and a hopeless romantic. Gabe seems to be someone who buries his head in the sand, ignoring all the red flags because he wants to be loved. My heart goes out to Gabriel. Like him, I struggled with my own sense of identity and believed that I wasn't worthy of being loved. Gabriel, in my opinion, is a people pleaser. He gives his all to everyone around him and gets very little in return. Relationships are all about give and take, but if the balance is disrupted, one person will suffer significantly more than the other. This is why it's so important for you to not lose yourself in a relationship. You see, Gabe needs a strong foundation, a foundation from which he can never stray from. What does this mean in layman's terms? Gabe needs to have a set of principles and values that he never strays from. If people don't align with his values, then they need to kick rocks. Sadly, good people with warm hearts need a great deal of protection. And good people are going to have to vet dating prospects and be cautious of predators.
Pero no me gusta.
Ay, ok, lo siento.
Bien. Gracias por mi sorpresa.
Ok.
Now, things happen quickly on 90 Day Fiancé the other way. People tend to fall in love and even get married in a very short period of time. And you guys know who I'm talking about. I'm talking about Danielle and Johan. Danielle and Johan, they led with their hearts, only to find out that there's a lot more than meets the eye. Firstly, people have to understand what a marriage is. Marriage means different things to different types of people. Some people marry for love, but others marry because they're looking for a come up. Some may call them gold diggers or sugar babies or whatever. But let's be real here. This is what marriage was for hundreds of years. In fact, marrying rich was always the number one way to escape the lower rungs of poverty. And for the most part, people didn't have a problem with that. Men inherently understood that their wealth made them more desirable. They understood that if they wanted to have some serious arm candy, they were going to have to pay like their way. Now, Danielle married this gorgeous man from a developing country who doesn't have the same opportunities and resources that she does, and this makes him unable to provide for her in the Dominican Republic.
Mi sueño es irme a los Estados Unidos a vivir con Daniel y mi familia también tiene ese sueño.
Yet Johan believes in the American dream. He wants to move to the United States to capitalize on all the opportunities. He wants this not only for himself, but also for his wife, Danielle. I felt deeply for Johan because he struggles with his own insecurities. Danielle, either knowingly or unknowingly, is poking the bear. She criticizes him about his business, not understanding that Johan probably isn't as educated as she is. She makes him carry her purse and she wants him to pay for an incredibly expensive apartment that she knows he can't afford. Now, I'm not a huge fan of gender roles. However, I know that there are huge disparities that come with dating someone outside of your social economic status. And sometimes you're going to have to make unconventional adjustments to make these marriages work.
But Johan and I are now a married couple, so any debt that he takes on is also my debt. So I hope he doesn't think that I'm going to be his sugar mama, because that's not my plan.
Now, Nicole, on the other hand, doesn't have a problem making unconventional adjustments. She understands that she has more privilege and opportunities than Mahmoud. Nicole is willing to open up and share these things with her husband. Sadly, Mahmoud, much like Johan, is deeply insecure. And while they seemingly argue all the time about Nicole's clothing, the real killer of their relationship is Mahmoud's insecurity. Deep down inside, he doesn't feel worthy to be with this beautiful woman. Mahmoud wants Nicole to cover up because he doesn't want other men looking at his beautiful wife. And he doesn't want this because he doesn't feel as if he has the strength and the courage to protect her. Mahmoud wants to minimize threats at all costs because if he lost his beautiful wife Nicole, he would truly be heartbroken. Now, I believe that Mahmoud is a good person and a good Muslim. His faith has given him so many blessings. Yet he has to come to grips with his own issues or he's going to push Nicole away for good.
I thought that the magic was just going to be like that always living in Egypt, but I was in for a rude awakening.
Speaking of coming to grips with your own issues, Osama from Morocco is crazy. This man is so deeply conflicted and so disconnected from reality, it doesn't make any sense. And yeah, I won't lie to you guys, I was buying the whole two souls can find love theme that he was spewing. But Osama had an agenda from the very beginning. And let me just say this, I love Miss Debbie. She's exactly who I want to be when I grow up. And yes, I think that she deserves to find love, true love. But sadly, I don't think that Osama loved her in the way that she needed. I believe that Osama was preying on her kindness and warmth in hopes for a visa and a green card. I truly believe that he felt like he was going to be this great artist and poet, and he was going to use Miss Debbie as a vessel to get there. Sorry, Osama, I'm not a fan.
I know that there is a madness inside of me, that I show it in my poetry and in my painting.
And yes, I'm also not a fan of Rishi. And honey, you are fine, you are handsome, you look great, but I don't think that he was ever serious about marrying Jen. And it's not because he doesn't have deep feelings for her, but I think that he just can't break away from traditions. And I think we Americans, we can be non-traditional because there aren't a lot of consequences. But someone who has thousands upon thousands of years of history and tradition, it's very difficult to break away from that. And I think in that situation, Jen should understand his situation and just call the whole thing off. Now, what do you guys think about 90 Day Fiancé the other way? What do you think about long distance relationships? What do you think about dating people from other countries? Please sound off in the comments below.